Hi, just a quick video to show you the Maelstrom with the yield boosters, and just to explain where they go and how they work and how to use them. The first thing is just to determine with the stock that you have, see there's two different style of yield booster. So there's this is the later generation one, this is the earlier generation. So we don't make these ones anymore. So you'll find that this one on the side of it has a code called RHML04, and it has this longer flange here. This is the later generation. It has, that's actually a prototype one. It has RHML05 on the side of it. And you'll see that it just has this thin sort of faceplate. It doesn't have that extra flange on it. So hopefully the stock you have has this RHML05 in it. If not, if you have this one, let us know and we'll aim to get some of these over to you, because these ones are a bit more versatile in terms of where they're installed and ease of serviceability and things. The other thing to note is we have first generation gasket. So I've got one of each on this cage just to show you. So our first generation gasket just has this little bead around the front which does the sealing. Our new gasket, new generation, has this flexible sort of skirt all the way around it. This one does a better job of sealing up, which is why we did it, because you get more sort of compression on this and it just seals up any sort of potential gaps around the inside there better, preventing water loss. The other thing is with RHML05, the new gen yield booster, it works best with the new generation gasket because of where it's installed. We allowed some space for it, but we'll get to that in a minute when I show how to install it. So yes, also just let us know which gaskets you have in that stock, and we'll get you some of the new generation if we need to. Right, so first of all, to give you a bit of an overview of how the yield booster actually works. So what it does is it basically forms like a dam wall. So what happens is in your Maelstrom, you've got water coming in to the cage, or the blue filter that you might have in there. That's doing the filtering, clean water going down out the bottom to the tank, and any sort of debris or overflow water coming out the outlet and going to stormwater or to the street. What can happen is with any filter, because it's filtering things out, it'll start to block up over time. They need servicing, they need cleaning. What happens is as you get a bit of like sort of a layer of debris on the bottom of the Maelstrom cage there, it's sort of for any water to then get through that mesh, the water level needs to rise a bit, so it's using cleaner mesh. But as that water level rises, with the overflow to stormwater being at the same level as the inlet, you can start to lose a bit of water out that. So by having a yield booster in place, which is sort of like a flap valve, and that flap's held shut with a magnet. So it takes a little bit of force to open it, and when it does open, it sort of flicks up. You can see there the magnet closing it keeps it closed with a bit of force. So we've used magnets with appropriate strength to sort of keep that flap shut while the water level in the cage rises, so it keeps finding new cleaner mesh to keep filtering, even actually use the very top surface of that mesh. So the aim is that yield booster stays shut and holds that water back while you're using the full cage to filter. But if it all sort of gets blocked up and that water level starts to rise further and we get a little bit of extra head pressure on it, then all of a sudden that flap it'll overcome the strength of the magnet, that flap will open up, and it won't cause an overflow situation in your gutters and your incoming rain harvesting line. It'll open up as a bit of an emergency purge and allow all that water to go through. So you'll start losing your water to storm water, but you're not inundating your system. So that's basically how the yield booster works. I'll start with the RHML04, in case you have that one. Where it gets installed is in the socket outlet. So in either one, whichever one you're directing to the overflow, you basically just push it into that socket there. It's a tight fit. Just push it in as far as it goes, and then the rubber coupling back on, and then the pipe basically just goes around it, and it's designed in a way that flap inside that pipe has clearance to open fully. So basically just put your pipe in there, do up the coupling, and it sits there happily, and it'll do what it needs to do. The issue with that one though is it was just a bit too inaccessible with some installations, particularly in ground or under some decking or something. It was just hard to get to if you did have to sort of adjust it or take it out or whatever. It's probably rare you'll need to actually do anything with the yield booster, but in case you do, we modified it into RHML05, the new gen, just to make it a bit easier and a bit more versatile. Before I move on to that one, I should have covered it before. There's a little slider on the bottom here, and I'm not sure where that screwdriver is at. You want to just pause? All right, so we've got a screwdriver. So on the bottom here, you'll see that, so what keeps it shut is a magnet in here and a magnet in there, and they attract each other and keep it shut. Out of the packet, you'll see that there's a small plastic nipple on there. It's about 1 millimetre tall. We've basically designed it so that when the flap's fully shut, the slider's pushed all the way to touch that nipple, there's about a 1 mil gap between them. That's about your optimal force for that flap to open when the water level gets up to around about here. If you want to set it so that it opens sooner or later, you can increase the force needed to open it by trimming that nipple off and then just loosening that screw off and then pushing that slider forward as much as it goes, and without that nipple there, obviously they would basically be touching. So the magnets are then closer together, it takes more force to open it, meaning it's going to take more water head level in order to crack that open and do what it needs to do. So that's to make it harder to open. To make it easier to open with less force, you don't need to trim that nipple off. You basically just slide that, so loosen that screw off, slide that slider back, and you'll see now there's a bigger gap between them. You can make that gap whatever you want. So it's got a bit of travel in it in there. If you wanted it quite easy to open, slide it all the way back, do it up, and now it's actually easier to open. It still takes a bit. And in that case, you'll find that it'll open before the water level even gets to the top of the cage. So there's a bit of adjustability there. If in doubt though, just leave it as it's set. Make sure that slider's just pushed all the way up so that there's just that 1 mil gap between them, which is defined by the nipple touching. So that's the adjustment that you can do in it. So we've covered where this one gets installed. Hopefully that you've got the new generation. And if that's the case, where it gets installed is actually in the outlet of the cage itself, or the blue plastic filter if that's the version of Maelstrom that you have. And what you need to do there is take off the gasket on the side that you want to put it in. So I'll take the gasket off that side. The yield booster will just sit in there, making sure it's sitting kind of like, obviously you don't want it like that, you want it fairly level in there, straight up and down. And then put your gasket back in, and you've just got to work your way around, just getting the flange of the gasket up and over, engaged with the flange of the metal, or the flange on the front of the blue plastic filter, and you just go around bit by bit, until that's all on. And just check it's all seated all the way around, which that is. You'll find once it's in there, you can still sort of move that if you need to just level it off. So that's now sitting in there. All you need to be mindful of is when you put the cage in, don't just drop it down vertical, because that's going to hit you. You just sort of tongue it in, rotate it down, which is kind of what you need to do anyway to get the new generation sealing properly around there anyway. So you can sort of see in there, that's where it's going to sit. When you install your pipes into that socket, it sits around the yield booster and it's got plenty of space for that flap to open. The thing there is, obviously, when you take your cage out for cleaning it, the yield booster comes with it. So it is sort of blocking off one, which makes it maybe a little bit harder to clean. You can quickly take that off if you want to, or clean it upside down with that flap open and water will come out. So obviously that can go in either side depending on which way you want to plumb it in. So that's where that new generation yield booster goes. That's about all. I think that covers yield boosters, the gaskets, and where they're installed, how they're used and what they do. Just let us know if there's any more information that you want. Thank you.